All right, Jocelyn, let's take a look at your essay. So, starting in your introduction, actually, let me start here. Even though we're not doing MLA format, I did put this into double spacing so it's a little easier for me to go through. And starting with your introduction, let me start with this part right here. This part that I just highlighted is pretty good. I like how you are relating mass hysteria and its symptoms into something that we have in everyday life. So your introduction is pretty good because what this does, hold on, I'm just writing on your rubric. Introduction has good setup. Because what this does is this looks at mass hysteria and looks at us seeing that we can have these symptoms, and then when it's at this broader scale, this is how it all contributes. So we get to see this relevancy where sometimes it's hard for us to understand that mass hysteria, but then we get to see, okay, I understand that, and then put it on a broader level. So that is a great way to have your essay set up. However, one thing I want to note, mass hysteria is caused by human natures. Typically, when we talk about human nature, especially in literature, you just need to leave it singular. You don't need the plural. But I can see what you're doing with it, so I'm not going to ding you on it because I understand why you're doing it. I just want you to be aware of that perspective. But anyways, with your intro, your hook, and your way you're ending your introduction, let's talk about this for a second. So, the way this reads to me, when someone sees something scary, for example, on Halloween night when they are trick-or-treating and they see someone with a clown mask, they might get scared, so it might be their instinct to turn around and walk the other way. This, along with this, you kind of have two different ideas going on, and it's just not punctuated correctly. So that's one of the grammar concerns I have with yours is maybe just set this up with when someone even if you just say if someone goes out trick or treating and sees someone with a clown mask, they might get scared, so it might be their instinct to turn around and walk the other way. Or you can say something. If you want to break this up into two sentences, when we see something scary, we may react in ways to avoid a situation. Period. For example, on Halloween night, blah, blah, blah. However you want to word that would be better, because this does not work as one whole sentence. And the same thing down here, mass hysteria could exist without media, and is based mostly on human instinct. Just put a period, instincts and how they react to things. I think you could put a period there and then say those instincts can also the people surrounding the person that is being consumed by mass hysteria. You are missing a word here, so I think this just needs to be tied up, but you do have the human nature component and how it affects people, so that's why your thesis will work okay here. I think you could put this stuff here and then put that it's more potent at the end, but because you set up your thesis here and then be like, here are the two things with it, and you explain it a little bit more, I think it's okay. So we're overall, Jocelyn, your introduction is pretty good. I think you just need to retweak those words around. And then if we move, if this will let me go down here. Integrated quote, often a physical culprit is discovered, but psychological stress and anxiety are sometimes the cause. This is pretty good, and I think you have, oh, hold on. I don't know why this is all italicized, but so be aware of that mechanic there. I like how you integrate the quote and then explain how you do a good job with analysis because how do I explain this? I'm seeing a lot of people just do one sentence analysis, but you do a good job at putting this into two sentences. So this is a good job. You're doing a good job with analysis there. And then because you have an example, how do I word this? Because you have the quote and then the analysis, maybe instead of saying, for example, just say an example of this instincts would be in the Crucible, when Mary Warren is accusing Abigail Williams and the other girls of being involved with witchcraft. They use mass hysteria because they're acting out on the fear that they're going to get caught. I think this is pretty good. You have an example that has some analysis there, right? Because that is the inference. So this is pretty good. The only thing I would say is you want to have a different kind of topic sentence here, uh, because mass hysteria is more opponent with human nature. That is your thesis, not quite a topic sentence. So your topic sentence should be designed to introduce what the paragraph will be about. And right now I'm seeing a lot about reactions with anxiety, so maybe even something with our anxiety is a reaction to, I don't know, something. I think you know what I'm talking about, but overall, good paragraph. As we move on to the next body paragraph, back then mass hysteria was only spread verbally because there was no media for it to be talked about. This is an okay topic sentence. I think you could tweak it just a little bit. I think back then is a little bit of a weak phrase. You could say, historically, mass hysteria was only spread verbally because there was no media for it to be talked about until, and that would require some more research because you would have to hear that it has that. So maybe even just specifying that was not available until the advent of newspapers, and then just explain that in history we've lived most of our time without the media. And then you go into, this is technically incorrect, you don't need the apostrophe, you can get rid of that, but so many people make that mistake that I think we just kind of forego seeing that, so I'm not gonna worry about it. But as we talk about all of this, you have the example, 10-year-old girl's hands started trembling, other students' hands began to shake. You want to spell out your numbers. Make sure you do that. Spell out numbers. Where was I go? Here we go. If a person is having a hysteria outbreak, the people surrounding them would be affected just from watching. This proves that it did not have to spread through media for more grave cases to happen. So this is pretty good. I think maybe you could use a little bit more to oomph it up a little bit, just in the sense of maybe just reiterate that they were reacting to their surroundings more so than, well, they didn't have media. Well, let me explain. Because in the nicest way possible, using they didn't have media is kind of a weak scapegoat, because there is truth to it, absolutely, but I think you can push it further, and this would be a good example of it, where if you're talking about this, just talk about how the students react to their surroundings, and even with media in the picture, they're going to react to the surroundings. It's not potent because they're just reacting to their surroundings for it. Something like that. And then, let's see. This is a little bit longer of a sentence. Many may argue that mass hysteria is impacted the most by media. And maybe just put a period there, because I think that will make a much better topic sentence. And then just say, the most famous case was discovered in 1692. And then, you don't even need this. I know you've already referenced this, but I would say this is one that you could just say, in 1692, which was the case of the Salem witch trials. You need an S there. So you talk about media not being there. Oh, I am so sorry. I misread this. I see what you're doing. Instead, what you would want to say, however, the most famous case of mass hysteria was discovered in 1692, which was the case of the Salem witch trials. These trials, well, you know what? You explain it. You would do it. Never mind. So that explains it pretty well. And this is fine. It had to be human nature that impacted it. So this is all good. The only thing you're missing is you have some good analysis. Let's look at all your body paragraphs for a second. You actually have some really good body paragraphs, and you have some good analysis and evidence that's in there. The only problem is how it is acknowledged in your opposition, because you do need to acknowledge what the evidence and what the analysis would be of the opposite side. So you do need to have that in the essay at some, or in that body paragraph at some point, because this is a good way to not backtrack, refute it. You just need to have something more specific with the opposition. And then finally, with your conclusion, mass hysteria is mostly impacted by human natures because people did not have media when these cases first began. Mass hysteria is based on what people are thinking and how they react to things. True. Put a period here, get rid of the and. I've noticed this before when you use the conjunction and. I notice you like to keep using it, and it's kind of a run on at that point. And then, although media is a factor that adds to mass hysteria, human nature is more potent. So, Jocelyn, your style is pretty good. I think you need to recap your conclusion a little bit better. Your conclusion is just 2 sentences, and I'm never a stickler on you need to have these many sentences per paragraph. But I think yours could definitely be improved by adding some more to it. Give us the last thought. You talked about Halloween with here, so maybe just ending with something to bring it back to that would be we have all experienced fear at some point in our lives, and it is through that anxiety and fear that mass hysteria is created. And then usually the hook and the ending is where I'm okay with you using second person. So you can say, the next time you are scared, if that feeling sticks around long enough, we have created an instance mass hysteria. I don't know, something like that. I think you have a lot of different ways you could do it. But overall, Jocelyn, I think you could use a little bit more fluff to your writing for the conclusion. Your evidence and analysis is pretty good. This is pretty good paper. Grammar concerns, I saw some punctuation, some missing words, spelling out some numbers, and some run-ons as your routine things. But other than that, it's not too bad in terms of grammar. But and then again, that body paragraph, I would just like to see some more about the opposition. But hopefully, if you do want to do a rewrite, you can. That is completely your choice. All right.